How? How recording? Yes, thank you, Craig. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Formula Yap. So I'm Albert, and
I'm Kevin.
all right, let's gonna not speed run it. Well, maybe we will. Who knows? Barcelona recap, kind of a snooze fest, really. So we're not gonna cover too much, and then Austria preview, second round of a triple header. Not really too much to look at, but some of the stuff off track leading into the race kind of interesting to talk about, and then just general stuff in the paddock and just outside in the general world of motorsports. So, how you doing, mate? You watched the Barcelona race at all?
Yeah, I was able to catch the highlights. I was able to check it out, see the race.
Okay.
I stand by what I said last episode that Barcelona is a perfect track for racing. And I think we saw a lot of it. I know that we're going to talk about how it was kind of boring, but I disagree a little bit. I think this was a nice, fun race.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's get started with the. Before we get into it, actually, I guess I might be a little biased saying that it was boring because I did wake up for it and I was kind of cooked. Like was like in and out of sleep because as an American, watching these European races can be quite brutal at times.
Yeah, it
Do you
really
want to go?
can. I know that they're trying to bring in American viewers, but honestly, the look, us as Americans, we'll watch anything. We'll watch anything that's competitive. I mean, we have professional bowling, we have professional darts, we have professional cup stacking, we have competitive Rubik's cube competitions. We will watch anything that you place the word competition in front of, right? So honestly, the biggest struggle is ours because one thing about Americans is we're patriotic as hell, but we won't wake up to be patriotic. You know what I mean? But
Right,
yeah, that's what they need. They need to fix the times. That's what we need.
you said something about patriotic timing. Yeah, it's tough, but it is the suffering we deal with, but we go through. Let's get started actually with just recapping our predictions from last race. Pole and podium predictions. Kevin, you called for a Charles pole position and
And
George
I was
Russell
very disappointed.
win, Perez
Um,
second, and Lando third.
yes,
Uh,
continue to embarrass me.
clean sweep, clean reverse sweep, clean reverse sweep, bro. Just over 4. I mean, you got Lando Norris on the podium. I'll give you like half a point.
That's like maybe half a point, and even then, I was doubtful about it.
That's kind of like your I feel like I'm giving you half a point, but it's like kind of like the professor giving you a curve on an exam, or that like extra bump so that you can pass your class. It's like pity.
Yeah,
It's like pity for you. And then meanwhile, I called for a Max pole and Max win, with Lando second and Lewis Hamilton in third, which is kind of a stretch. I thought, because I think I said in the last episode, right, that Mercedes might be actually onto something, but false. But it might just be another false dawn like they've had for the past 2 seasons. And well, I pretty much I got the podium spot on. Max win, Lando second, and Lewis third. But it's actually Lando on pole by I think 2/100ths of a second. I don't know if you watched qualifying, Kevin, but it was really, really close.
yeah. Lando got at the end of Q3 was 111,383, and Max Verstappen was 111,403. So it was about, yeah, in the hundredths of a second difference.
It's it's crazy, and it looked like I said, it looked like McLaren had the fastest car out there, but just
Yeah, in fact, just so that everyone knows how close it was, the first seven drivers were all 111. It just went into the hundredths of a second, just so that you know how competitive it is. They all finished with a 111 time. It just went into the hundredth of a second. So I think that the gap between the pole position, which is Lando, and seventh place, which is Pierre Gasly, Lando was 11383. Gasly was 11857, which that is a a a 400ths of a second difference. So the blink of an eye in a difference of the times.
I mean, yeah, I mean this like I think this season's been closer than ever, really. I think we're starting to see that convergence. Um, we're starting to see that convergence, for those teams at the top, and we'll get more into, those, each team, or specifically McLaren, and you know, it seems like they're the number two now, right, in terms of fighting Red Bull for that, for a title this season. But let's move down. We'll get to them late in more detail later on. Actually, I do want to focus on at least what I found were the three main, at least like a couple things that I noted during the race and the days after it as well. Starting off with Ferrari, they were in the mix. I think they were expected to be about third, fourth fastest. We look in qualifying. Yeah, Charles lead Ferrari over Carlos Sainz by 5 thousandths in qualifying, and then head to the race. They pretty much finished. They pretty much finished where they qualified. So no movement up or down. Right? Can't really complain there. But seems to be some there seems to be some tension boiling between these two teammates now. Um, it's looking spicy. I don't want to call it Drive to Survive juicy, but if you saw the comments post race on the radio and the comments that both of those drivers made in the interviews after the fact, that there's something's gone awry at Ferrari, or especially, or if not at the team between these two drivers.
Yeah, I think it's so. There's pictures that show that Charles and Carlos had a bit of a discussion after the race, which seems to have gone heated. I mean, at the end of the day, they're still friends and they're still teammates. So, don't think that they were ready to go to blows. Call back to that Charles to the Max Verstappen and Esteban Ocon moment from 2018, but they did have words too. They exchanged some heavy words, some heated words, right? And again, that's all just my observance. I don't have an inside line, but it we saw that they were attacking each other towards the beginning of the race. We saw, I believe it was Charles who pushed Carlos off the track, and Carlos ended up getting the lead and ended up ahead of Charles. We can hear them on the radio complaining to each other a little about each other. I think it's just. What do you think is going on? What do you think is the cause of this?
I I mean, this could very well be a one-off moment again, um, where it's just heat of the moment. It's racing. It's just hard but fair racing. So the contacts that they had and the early attacks after the first round of pit stops or whatever. This all could just be them trying to be competitive. Obviously, Steins is trying to race for a seat next year and beyond. He's fighting for his career, right? And Charles is, it seems he's still riding that high off of Monaco. Um, but both, I think, are equally disappointed with, the little slump that the team have had lately. The performance. I think they brought upgrades this, if I'm not mistaken. They brought upgrades, but they haven't been, um, what they were expecting. So there's their internal struggles, and obviously just I don't want to say disappointment. I guess that is a good way to put it. Not disappointment with the current performance of the car. It feels like they're taking a step backwards because McLaren, Mercedes, and Red Bull are obviously you know making strides. They're making incremental steps, but then those other teams are making strides. So it feels like they're falling behind, and they're trying to figure out what the drivers are figuring out what they can do to make that leap again to get back into contention. So like who knows? I hope this is a one-off, but it very much seems like even if this is a one-off, that heading into the rest of the season, Steins is going to be increasingly selfish, looking out for himself. Even once his seat is secured, you know, Steins will have a care in the world. Like he's not racing for him anymore. He's racing for himself at this point. So well, we could see. I'm excited to see this blow up into some Drive to Survive level drama or something like a Rosberg Hamilton, you know, just rivalry, that carries on after, into the next season and beyond. Maybe that's wishful thinking. Maybe I'm just being delusional that I want more Drive to Survive drama. Who knows? We'll see. It's looking it feathers are getting rumbled over there at Ferrari, and very interested to see how this turns out, how this plays out.
Yeah, it's so I will go into it at a later episode on what it truly means to be a number one driver and a number two driver, and what does that actually mean both during on a Sunday, and what does that mean on the Monday through Saturday, or a Monday through Monday through
Okay.
Saturday. So we'll go into that later. But for this, it's not uncommon to have two drivers, two heavy hitter drivers. I just want to emphasize that these are two of the best drivers on the grid right now. And I don't think that's a controversial statement to say. I think these are two of the best drivers on the grid right now. Um, and they're in one of the big three teams. I think right now it's a toss up between a Ferrari and Mercedes on who the third is, but it's one of the teams with the most history, the best pedigree, right? It's not uncommon for them to start fighting each other. You mentioned Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. We have um, uh Jesus, I'm starting. We have Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo. We had the not as big hitters, but we had the when Force India was a thing. That was Ocon and Perez that always fought. We have had uh, a huge rivalry, which is not talked about enough, and we'll even dive into that on a later episode. The massive rivalry between Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso. That was a crazy McLaren rivalry, uh, which led to Hamilton becoming his a world champion for the first time in 2008. So it's not uncommon, but with the exception here, like you said, Carlos Sainz is out of a seat. He has nothing to lose. He doesn't need to watch out for his team. He does because he's a gentleman, a very gorgeous gentleman, right? But he doesn't owe anything to Ferrari anymore. He doesn't owe anything to Fred Vasseur. Vasseur's only been there for a year. What is it? What is he? What does he owe? He owes him nothing, right? But he does it nonetheless. But as these races grow on, move forward, and he starts to get a little more desperate, like you said, we're gonna see a lot more of him pushing, a lot more of him fighting, especially since he's tasted a Grand Prix victory. He wants another one. So expect more. Is it gonna be like you said, a Drive to Survive level rivalry? I don't think so because at the end of the day, these two are great. Well, I don't think so. Not just because they're great friends, but because no matter how difficult the fighting is, they'll both be able to walk away. And I think that was a big difference between Hamilton and Rosberg. They didn't have the option of walking away. The one who walked away was the one who lost. And here it's not that case.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a crazy rivalry, but it's going to be healthy. It's going to be healthy racing.
Yeah. Well, wait until you find out. Well, that's actually a couple good ideas for future podcast episodes. Going, I guess rewinding back time. Covering the rivalries like you brought up Hamilton Rosberg, Hamilton Alonso. Rewind back the time, especially for which I get, which we'll talk about that later. We'll take that offline. as we say in the corporate world. Um, Speaking of,
We want to take care of the new Formula One fans. We want to make sure they have all the information they need to
oh,
keep up in a conversation at a dinner party.
oh, for sure. Speaking of offline, things that went offline. Uh, Checo just once again just off, offline, off the pace, line. God, that was such a terrible fucking segue. But yeah, once again, Checo just off the pace again. But I guess the question that I posed to you before, is it a Checo swap? I posed this question to you because I know you're a big Checo fan, Kevin. Do you think Checo's performance of the past couple races is that just him on that downward slump that we've seen from him during these European swings the past couple seasons, or what we're seeing is the way he's driving that car is the baseline performance that the Red Bull RB20 has. Like that's where the Red Bull is at right now, and Max is just driving out of this world, fucking, you know, god tier again.
That that's a you bring up a great question. And so yes, we do have to address the elephant in the room that Max Verstappen is a brilliant driver. But I mean, Checo Perez, he's not a bad driver. He he's not someone that I am willing to let him get away with. Oh, Max Verstappen is just much better because we've seen in different races that he can keep up. That if that on a good day he can compete and even win. I'm not surprised that he's in a slump because over the past 2 years, around these races is when the slump begins, or it's already in full swing. So this year it's a bit early. His slump came early. I think it feels that he's doing much worse than he is because he's no longer competing for second. We're not seeing as many 1-2s, 2-3s, 1-3s as we saw the past 2 years. But he let's go back to where he ended. Over the
Mhm.
past two races, he DNF'd. He DNF'd in the past two races. I think past three races he might have DNF'd. No, no, no. In the last race, he was out of the points. No, yeah, he DNF'd the past three races, I believe.
He DNF'd
And
in Canada. He DNF'd in Monaco. Lap one incident. We all remember that, don't we? And then
yeah, he DNF'd in the past two races.
then
And
he
in this one,
finished in Italy. He finished eighth, almost a whole minute behind. So yeah, I mean DNF and then just well off the pace. He's either DNFing or just well off the pace of.
so
Uh,
today at least he finished in the points.
okay.
That's a good thing, right? It means now he's at least crossing the finish line, which is a victory in and of itself. But if you're driving a Red Bull, again, I mean this Red Bull's wicked fast. It's a rocket, you know. So if you're given Red Bull resources, you have to capitalize on that. And so to answer your question, is it that Max Verstappen is just much better or that he's in a slump? No, he's in a slump. Don't get me wrong. He is in a slump. But it's a slump we've seen. And what can I attribute it to? I can attribute it to, well, a couple of things. His strategy, although Red Bull is an amazing organization, their strategy towards Sergio is always one that is either taking a risk or it's clear that they're minimizing his resources to maximize Max's output. And that's not a complaint. That's I understand what they're doing, but that's a fact. They will at times not sabotage, but they will minimize his resources and attention in order to ensure that Max has the best racing experience possible. and that's
Yep.
one of the drawbacks of being a number two driver. And here's the thing: Sergio Perez, Checo is clearly the number two driver. There is no chance. There is no rivalry. There is no, oh, maybe that they'll prioritize him. No, he is on this team for one reason only. He's the Mexican Prime Minister of Defense. His only role is to ensure that Max wins. If we look at his time at Red Bull through that lens, it is comparable to Valtteri Bottas. He has provided Max Verstappen
Wow.
with 3 world championships. If you look at his career at Red Bull through the lens of did he make Max Verstappen win, he's given him 3 world championships. So he's been a great number two driver. What's the difference this year, and why are we criticizing him a little more this year? It's because for the first time in 2 years, Max Verstappen has other people on his tail that is not another Red Bull. Max Verstappen is, I'm pretty sure he looks out during races and is surprised to see a red or an orange car or even a silver car, right? It's been a while since he's seen that. It's been many, many races. So this year we're kind of, and I know Red Bull is placing a little more pressure on him to say, hey, look, we know that you can do it. We don't want you to win. We simply want you to be behind Max to help clear the way for him. Again, back to him as in terms of winning races. Do we know he can do it? Yes. But that's not his role. His role is simply to move other cars out of the way and to take up space. As a Checo fan, would I love to see him be announced as a world champion? Yes. I would give a lot. Is it worth a $1 million dare? Am I getting on my knees for $1 million? You know what I mean? Is it that bad? Maybe, but I'm well aware of his role. Sergio Perez is well aware of his role. And so, is it that Max is better? Not really. I think he is given a lot of forgiveness at Red Bull, but it's starting to catch up now. If we want to look at the driver's standing,
Mhm.
let's take a look at them really quickly. And forgive me for yapping. Thank you to those that are still with me. Sergio
Sorry,
Perez,
you
it,
said something?
Sergio Perez is in fifth. He's in fifth place. Max is in first. There are 3 drivers between him and Max, which is not a good thing. And that is why he's receiving a lot of criticism. He is not being a prime minister of defense. So, what can we expect of him? What kind of improvements? The upcoming races are Austria, Great Britain, and Hungary.
Mm.
Austria is a home race. He has to do well in the home race of the team. Great Britain, really tough track. That one, I don't think he'll do good in. There's too many British drivers, and that's a really tough track, and I don't think he may be able to do good on that one. But for Hungary, watch out for Austria and Hungary.
Mm.
Those are his races. Those will be his. Can you bring this back for the team? Because in terms of the constructors championship is very much at threat. It is currently a 60-point difference, which can disappear very quickly. So, yeah, I think he's in a slump, but it's because he's been giving a lot of forgiveness in the years past, and this year the stove is on, and he needs to learn to take the heat. Yap over.
Is it bad that I wasn't expecting the answer for you? It's you got me the first half. Not gonna lie, I honestly thought you were gonna defend him. It kind of sounded like you did, given you know. But damn, you just went on. Just heard my dog bark all the way across the house. That caught me off guard. But no, I think yeah, I don't know. Can't I want to agree with you, but it's like I can't really tell if he's in the slump or if that's just the way if that's just like his baseline performance and the car is genuinely. I don't want to say struggling, but the the weak points of the car are that RB20 are showing. Um, just like the V car or RB. We'll call it V car because I just said RB for Red Bull. Fuck, this is annoying. I hate this. Bring back the Alpha Tauri name. Bring back a normal fucking name, please. This advertising shit's not working. Um, sorry. Anyways, the V Carb car they pretty much bought a B spec car this weekend to Barcelona. All the upgrades. Uh, the technical director Jody Egginton, I believe, was the one that said the only thing that hasn't changed in this car is the front wing and the B wing, and they might be right in that everything's changed, including their trajectory this race, because before that they were scoring consistent points, or not scoring consistent points, they were fighting, scrapping out for that last 10th, 9th, maybe 8th place, getting consistent points, getting into Q2, Q3 even on occasion, and that's not what we saw in Barcelona. Uh, both cars were knocked out in Q1. Yuki ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, but you're starting 17th and 18th. I mean, it's yeah, you can see him having difficulties getting my words across because the, whatever those upgrades were, at least in just if we look at it in terms of raw pace, like speed, time on the timesheets, they were nowhere near where they should have been or where they have been all season. Um, so I don't know. I don't know what's. We're not engineers. We don't know how these upgrades work. I don't understand aerodynamics and ground effect and shit. I'm an engineer. I don't understand this shit. Kevin surely doesn't understand this. Right? I'm pretty
Nope.
sure. Oh yeah. See, I'm pretty sure
Nope.
he doesn't. Good.
Bro, I
See.
was a political science major in college. Don't tell me about math.
Okay, and I hate poli sci majors. Anyways, right? It's just they were
You
nowhere.
love
They
me though.
were
You love me though.
of course, but like they were nowhere. RB were RB carve. Fucking please, I want to put a bullet in my fucking head if I mix those names up one more time. Um, they weren't, they were nowhere. Um, but it seems like there's some optimism. Daniel Ricciardo after the race said, this probably is more reflection towards himself and his future, which we'll get into later on. But he said he felt he had a good race, perfected everything with the strategy and all that, but because the car was such a fucking shitbox this weekend, because he finished what 15th, yeah, ahead of Yuki in 19th. So that car was an absolute shitbox, and they fucked the. So if they played the strategy correctly, we'll never know because those upgrades, B spec car, whatever you want to call it, just doo doo. You got any any thoughts on that? No.
Any thoughts on Red Bull's poor performance?
We already talked about Red Bull. We already talked about Checo. I'm
I
talking
mean,
about
I'm sorry. I meant
The Visa Cash App racing. Yeah, yeah. You see what I
can
mean?
we can we
Even you're
can we have an
confused.
episode on just how I need a 10-minute episode, a quick mini sode on just how horrible that name is.
I got you. I
I
got you. We'll take it.
hate it.
We'll take this
Jesus.
off. We'll take the episode ideas offline. Actually, I'm gonna bring it up here for people here. We should do a history. We should have like a mini because I know Formula One had this little thing. They had a little video series where they went through the histories of each team, from like the very
Yeah.
beginning to like current. But I think that's like it might be like 3 or 4. It's like the origins of the team. That's what they call it. I think the name of it is. It's a really good series actually. Um, because I have ADHD and I watched all of them. I think as my way to get into the F1 rabbit hole, but we could probably do update because I don't think this race. I think this race came out like last year or 2 years ago, so kind of out. I guess you could say they're still kind of in date, but we can add a little twist to it because the doc is very historical. And I'm pretty sure we can add our own twist to it. But anyways,
But
this
to answer your question,
should have been taken
uh,
offline. But anyways, continue.
to answer your question, their performance for the first time, I think ever this year, Daniel Ricciardo. No, it's not the first time, but if for the first time in a long time, Daniel Ricciardo outperforms Yuki Tsunoda. And might I add, the only time he outperformed Yuki Tsunoda, it wasn't a close race. Yuki Tsunoda did horrible this past weekend.
Mm,
Just I mean, it happens. It is what it is. I'm not saying that all of a sudden, oh, he's washed. I'm not criticizing him. You have a bad race sometimes. He ended up in
yep.
19th. Daniel Ricciardo still did Daniel Ricciardo numbers. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he didn't improve. Yuki just did worse this race. But Daniel Ricciardo was in 15th place. And that's not that's not far off from how he's been over the past few races. That's, if anything, right in line with, for Canada. He placed, I believe, around the. I believe he placed 17th. No, he placed eight. Well, I stand corrected. He placed eighth, so he outperformed Yuki Tsunoda last race as well. Did
Mm,
eighth, and Yuki did 14th. So he did do better. I'm gonna eat my words now and say that he did do better over the past two races. But still, it's because Yuki is in a very off pace right now. And that's one of the byproducts of Yuki Tsunoda, the talented driver who is prone to having these kinds of slumps in the sport. And as a result, he has been he's finally been placed in an opportunity where he's let me rephrase. Over his past two partners were drivers that were much more popular than him
yep.
to the fans and had a lot more moral support from the fans. As a result, he has had to fight a lot. And whenever he does good, it's counted as, well, you're doing your job. And whenever he does bad, it's counted as, well, you see, this is why we don't cheer for you. I think slowly the tides are turning and people are realizing what a talented driver he is. But let's not say this is a slump. Let's not forget that RB is a team that has a lot of messes. I would call it Red Bull's closet just because it's not as organized as its older brother. So, uh, is it a slump? No, I don't think so. Should we be concerned? No, I don't think so. But it can escalate very quickly.
Okay.
Let's keep an eye on it over the next race.
All right. All right. All right. I like that. I like that. Well, speaking of another good segue, you've brought right up into the next race. Not a lot to cover. I mean, there are a lot of storylines to cover heading into the next race. Most of them really are driver market. Um, yeah, pretty much just surrounding driver market, and then we already covered the Ferrari schism, and stuff. So not too important. Um, you know, this race is the second race of a triple header, which I believe is the first triple header, first of two triple headers this season. So after Barcelona, teams are heading right back into it. Um, and So we head into Austria at the Red Bull Ring. Here's where we stand in the both the drivers and constructors championship. Max Verstappen still leads, obviously, with 219 points. Lando, with his second place finish, has overtaken Charles Leclerc as the number two driver, 150 to 148 for the Monegasque. Carlos Sainz right behind, or not right behind, but a little bit behind with 116, followed by Sergio Perez with 111 points, rounding out that top five. And then you've got Oscar Piastri in sixth, the two Mercedes drivers in seventh and eighth, George Russell leading Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso uh, and Lance Stroll creating a sandwich with Yuki Tsunoda in that middle of the pack, and then Daniel Ricciardo in 12th with 9 points after his recent run of good races, and then Oliver Behrman somehow still in 13th. He's doing better in Formula One than he is in Formula Two. I believe. Let's actually check his Formula Two standings real quick. So Oliver Behrman is 13th right now in Formula One with 6 points because of his stand-in performance in Jeddah. He currently stands, if I'm not mistaken, after the race in Barcelona, he's in 17th place in F2. Um, tough, tough. Meanwhile, his teammate in F2, Kimi Antonelli, who is, you know, all, another junior prime for an F1 seat next year, he's in ninth place. He's in the battle ish. F1 has major swings, but or sorry, F2 has major swings, but we don't really keep up. I don't keep up with F2 like that. And then Hulkenberg 6 points, Gasly 5, Alpine are getting there now. Ocon with 3 points, Albon with the ninth place in Monaco, K Mag with that single point from I forget what fucking race. The two shitters, I mean Sauber's sorry, yet to score a point along with Logan Sargent, which if the rumors are true that broke out earlier this week, could be a major shakeup in the American side of things. And I'm actually quite excited for that if it is true. But anyways, we'll get to that later. And then in terms of constructors, orders the same. Shitter Sauber, sorry, don't have any points yet. Williams with the Albon finish. Haas in eighth place uh, now after Alpine overtook him this race with a double points finish. Red Bull, I'm sorry, not Red. I did it again, Kevin. I called RB Red Bull, not in Racing Bulls or V Carb, whatever they're called. They're six. Aston Martin's in fifth. Mercedes is in no man's land, fourth place, and then pretty much a three-way battle at the top. Red Bull are clear of Ferrari by 60 points, but McLaren are knocking on the door. McLaren are knocking on Ferrari's door. They're only 20. No, sorry, not 20. 33 points away. So, you know, one bad weekend, for Ferrari, and that swing could just happen right then and there. So that's the standings heading into
Damn,
Austria.
son.
The only story I really want to talk about is the only story really I really care about with this preview is the the new track limits thing. So I don't know if you watched last year's race in Austria, but there were track limit violations up, down, left, right, all over the fucking place. Right? It was foul. So many fucking like black and white flags. Because brutal. It
They
was
just they were
brutal.
just they just
Oh
keep fighting each other.
yeah. I guess there are two stories. Oops. It's a sprint weekend. What does that mean? We don't fucking know. We're too new to know how a sprint weekend matters. But yeah, so like I said, I don't know if you watched last race, right? Of last year's race in Austria. The track limit violations were all over the place. Where every driver was getting shafted left, right, and center with these track limit violations, lap deletions, or whatever. So the FIA and the Red Bull Ring have implemented new solutions.
Yeah, one
Let's
of them
read.
I believe is a gravel trap.
Hmm.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
read them to me. Read them to me.
All right, I'll leave it to you. I'm gonna quit yapping.
No, no, no. I want to hear it. Read them to me. Read them to me.
Oh, you want me to read it? Oh, my bad.
Yes,
God, I'm
sir.
so cooked. All right, let's. I'll read the. I'm not gonna go verbatim here. So, it looks like they've installed two, um, a couple gravel traps here. Uh, outside, two gravel traps on the outside of turn 9 of the last two corners, 9 and 10, and then they've moved the gravel trap at turn 4 even closer to the exit. Uh, where the drivers. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember the track layout. Um, I gotta pull up the fucking thing. I won't do it. I'm lazy. Um, to try to, you know, prevent people from the drivers from gaining an advantage when they go off track. Which I mean, gravel traps, sausage curbs, grass runoff, which whatever way whichever thing you put into try to avoid these track limit things. It's bound to happen, obviously. But in this case, I do think it's good that what they're doing. I've noticed this as well in the past couple of races that they're removing, track organizers in the FIA are removing certain, they're like, I'm trying to remember which circuit where they removed. It was Imola. Thank you. I just remembered talking to myself now. It's Imola a couple races ago where they pretty much got rid of most of the runoff and high speed with gravel traps there to prevent, gaining an advantage after going off track, seeing track limits and stuff. And it seemed to work over really well in Imola. And so I think the FIA are doing a good job with this. They're still trying to find different solutions. Obviously, I mean, to be fair, the issue with the track limits thing is not um, the method, right? I mean, the track limits are defined very clearly in the rule book. It's the white line on the curb, pretty much the white line, right? That's not the main issue, and what they have outside of it to prevent that from happening, whether it's gravel trap, concrete runoff, grass, whatever. That doesn't matter. The main thing is how they enforce it, right? And to how yeah how they enforce it if it happens and all that stuff. That's what's most important to most of we don't that's really what's important here. But good on them, I suppose, for the FIA to bring gravel traps. I guess backtracking a little bit, I guess in terms about how are they going to find out or detect because which drivers have gone off the racing line or violated track limits. Looks like they have. You read it here from the F1 article. An F1 article. There will also be AI technology implemented. Leave it, of course, of course. AI, AI, with a blue line on the exit of certain corners between the white line that defines the track limit and the exit curb, allowing the automated flagging of potential incidents. That should speed up how quickly decisions can be made with the intention of dealing with them all in real time and lowering the likelihood of post race changes being needed. This is so gravel traps doesn't really uh, don't care. That's good. Prevents runoff, so people aren't purposely trying to take an outside line. Or, they if they run off, they're not hurt, they're not penalized for it. They can just get back on like normal, right? No big deal. Um, but this is the issue. This is what we're getting at right here. Like it takes like everything's done manually. There's no AI thing or automation to detect when a driver's gone offline, despite the fact that there's all these cameras on track. There's the onboard cameras that each car has. And you're telling me some engineers, some team of engineers over at the FIA can't write like a script or something that runs, that runs the full, that takes the onboards and all the camera feeds live on the track, right? It's like basic imaging stuff, but what do I know? I'm just a basic engineer. I'm very much oversimplifying it, but I think it's a good first step for the FIA here. Um, Having something automated should uh, alleviate one of fans' main concerns, and teams and drivers as well, regarding track limit. How to determine track limit violations. Specifically how long they take to determine that. Because it seems like everything's done manually by the stewards. So this should be uh good first step. Let's see. Obviously, as an engineer, your ego kicks in. It's like, oh, I could do this solution easier, but I don't work for the FAA. I'm just a fan. So
And you wouldn't
yeah.
want to work. Yeah.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. That's the really the main storyline. Um, Pertaining to the race. I mean, I shouldn't say pertaining to the race. Obviously, there's a bunch of off-track stuff as well, but since that is stuff off track, doesn't really relate to the race as much. You know, we'll bring it up in the next section. We'll bring it up later. So let's just cut the crap here.
Should we get to our predictions
Oh,
for the race?
yes, yeah, let's go for it. Pole and podium predictions. Uh, since I'm already yapping, I need to take a breather. I'm gonna fucking just chant I'm just gonna get my shred off. Max Verstappen pole off the gate. It's the Red Bull. Maybe I'm just stupid. It's the Red Bull ring. Max is there. Max is there. Max is there. I mean, he was 2/100ths off. Could have been on pole. Um, don't see why he couldn't be there again. I mean, Red Bull still look by far the strongest car. Um, you know, even if Max admitted as much last week, saying that, oh, we definitely didn't have the fastest car. Lando last week saying, oh yeah, we definitely had the fastest car. We should have won the race. I think Red Bull still got it in them. Or when I say Red Bull, Max. So check
Max
out.
Bull.
Yeah, exactly. It's MB Max Bull. It's not RB anymore. It's not Red Bull. So yeah, I think it's gonna be close between those two again. But Max, I think at inches, not at it inches out this time, and then podium. I think Lando takes. I think honestly, I'm feeling edgy. I don't want to say edgy, but I mean Lando and McLaren have been knocking on that first place. Um, Now ever since Lando's inaugural win in Miami, they've been knocking on the door for that. Second win. They nearly had it in Canada. They nearly had it last week in Barcelona. So third time's a charm, right? I think Lando gets it here. I think Lando seals the deal at the Red Bull Ring for top step. Max in second, and uh, I'm going for Lewis Hamilton third again. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know, George. I love. I think
Very
George is a
interesting
good
take.
driver. I think George is a good driver, but I don't think he has. I don't think he's there yet. Now that the W15, the Mercedes car is found its stride, I guess we can say, not the car, but I guess the team as a whole found the stride. Um, Seems George is either being a little bit too harsh on himself, or he's just not being able to handle it. And Lewis, being the vet that he is, just taking that thing home, like the 7-time world champion he is. So that's where I am. I think Hamilton rounds out the podium there, uh, in third. Hopefully, I go 4 for 4. But what about you, Kev?
All right. Okay. So, ah, who do I think takes full? Let's. I want to go back, not to Spain. I think if we look at Austria and the type of track that it is, it's a lot of straights, right? It's a lot of straights with some pretty sharp turns. Who do I know is great at the turns? Here are the drivers that come to mind. We have Max Verstappen. He's in that red with that very sharp Red Bull. We have uh, Lando Norris, strong at the turns. We have Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, both very good drivers at taking the turns. But again, this isn't racing, this is qualifying. Who is going to qualify the fastest? I would say, mm, and here's the thing. We haven't said who's winning the sprint race either. We're just talking about the main race right now. Just talking about the
Yep.
main race.
Yep. And the only
The
reason we're
main,
only talking about the main race is honestly, I roads are doing this out. I completely forgot it was a sprint race. Even if it was, I genuinely could give a shit about a sprint race.
fair enough.
Because it's a sprint race. I mean, fuck, come on, please, Jesus, leave me alone with a sprint race. I, I'm not the biggest. I guess I wasn't the biggest fan because nothing was special about it, and obviously Max was winning every sprint race anyways. So it's like, I don't want to see more Max domination, but maybe things might change now that we've got some convergence, some actual real battle competitiveness going on in this championship. Maybe things are different. We'll see. Um, but yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Continue.
No, it's okay. It's totally fine. So who do I think is gonna be home? I have to give it to Max. It's like you said, home race. He's taking that for sure. Max Verstappen. Uh, who do I think wins the race? Or do what I like to do, which is start backwards. I think in third place we'll see who goes in third place. I think gonna be Oscar Piastri. I think Oscar Piastri.
I'm sorry,
No,
Oscar Piastri on the top staff.
no, third place. Third
Oh,
place.
third place. Okay. Oscar Piastri, third place.
Oscar Piastri. I think for second place we'll see uh, Lando Norris, and I
Okay.
think first place. No, I can't. Max is gonna be on those top steps. So let's move Max to second. Wow,
Oh,
that's a crazy sentence.
oh, okay, okay. Oh,
Let's move Max to second. Let's put Lando first,
okay. You're gonna go Lando
and
first, Max second.
let's put Carlos Sainz in third.
Signs.
Yeah,
Ferrari.
yeah, I think
Okay.
Ferrari can be in third. Uh-huh.
Hmm.
That's my podium.
Okay. You know what? I'm not gonna say it's an edgy take because honestly, like I said, that Ferrari is there this year. It has been there this year. Just don't know what's going on. Hopefully, they get things sort of sorted out in Austria. So we'll see what happens. All right, that's good. So we're looks like we're both going for Lando wins, huh?
Yeah, I think.
Looks like
Yeah, I
so, which
think
actually
Lando wins
leads
it.
us perfectly to stuff that's happening in the paddock and the talk that's going on in the paddock and in the world of motorsport as a whole. McLaren, and we literally just both predicted fucking Lando Norris to win Austria, and given their really strong performance in the past couple of races, right? Like obviously
Right.
Lando finally got his first win in Miami, and you know with that, and his strong performance lately, Lando now sits in P2 in the drivers, McLaren P3 in constructors. Lando's finished, or McLaren, I should say, have finished. I'm trying to figure out. They finished either on the top step or podium in like the past six, like all the last six races or some shit like that. I forget the statistic. I'm trying to find it. Um, it's looking like they they are looking like the number two. They're looking like the team that can properly challenge Red Bull for um, a title this season. The question really is, are McLaren ready for that battle? I'm gonna put this is a yes or no and a short why or why not. Right? Can provide evidence or not. I don't
Uh,
care.
is McLaren able to be a number two to Red Bull? That's the question, right? The
Pretty much. Or I guess the main question is can McLaren challenge Red Bull for a title this season? We know they're number two. They look like that. They look like they are the number two right now. I guess the question is, can they become the number one? Can they win? Are they ready to fight Red Bull tooth and nail for the constructors championship or
the
for the drivers
answer,
championship?
my answer
Yeah.
is yes. Yes, they can. And it's
Really?
and the
Okay.
reason is it's not because Lando can compete with Max. That's not the reason. It's because Oscar can compete with Checo. And at least in the past few races, he's been outperforming Checo, and
Hey.
getting a consistent amount of points. But can they win in the constructors championship? Yes, because collectively they're doing better. Even though they Lando definitely won't steal the drivers championship, McLaren is doing better off, and I think that's another thing too. Going back to that previous Checo conversation on maybe the ways he's failing this year, they need to keep those points up, and so he needs to start competing with Lando and outperforming in order to keep both those dreams. But yes, yes.
Okay. That is not what I was. You know what? I God, my answer. You make me want to change my answer because I think I as like I, there. I guess. Oh man, my answer was originally no, but I can. You know what? Oh, you make me want to change my answer to yes, but there's a major caveat because I still think there's one key area I think they need to focus that McLaren need to work on, and if they want to be a proper challenge, a proper title contender. Um, moving forward, not just this season, obviously, but for next season and into 2026 and beyond. Um, so I guess I could say yes, but with the caveat. My original answer was going to be no because of that one thing. But I mean, you bring up everything else, so shit. Yeah, I mean, you know what? Yeah, no, my answer is that's going to be yes. I think McLaren are ready to challenge Red Bull for a title this season. I mean, we got the battle right now, right? Lando and Max. They're fighting it out for pole and for the top step on the podium at the end of the Grand Prix. And then Oscar and Checo, they're going through their own little struggles right now. It seems, right? But if we look at the drivers, I should take the drivers championship. One second. Yeah, I think if you look at the driver standings, right? Yeah, Sergio's ahead of Oscar by decent margin, 20, can't do math, 24 points. So it's a pretty decent margin, all things considered. But um, both are going through some struggles right now. But given where they're at in the driver standings, I guess that's what we're expecting. I think that's what the teams are going to expect from them is to for those number two drivers to keep the other at bay so that Lando and Max have a clean fight at the front for the win, pretty much, right? So that's where the battle is, right? Max and Lando fighting for top honors in the driver's standings, and Oscar and Sergio pretty much playing second fiddle, for their own glory, of course, and to help their team uh, get as many points as they can at the constructors. So I think it's looking good for them. Especially with Lando, he's in impeccable form. I think he just has a lot of confidence in that McLaren. Um, with the just the turnaround that they had from last season. Um, you know, the funny thing, the McLaren's turnaround started last year at this very race with their first set of upgrades. That's how they
Oh
took the
wow.
180. Yeah, I know. So I don't want to say it's 365 days, but it's been a whole season. So it is pretty good. I did say yes that there is a caveat to this, to McLaren being a proper title contender, a consistent title contender, not just for this year, but for moving forward. Um, and that is going to be their strategy calls. If you want me, and it comes from uh, both sides, driver side and uh, you know the team at the pit wall and back at base in Woking. Lando still seems very unsure. He doesn't seem as confident in his calls. He seems very what's the word? I want to say unsure. Right? He doesn't have that confidence in calling the shots. Right. Um, because and the McLaren team and the McLaren pit wall themselves are struggling with timing and stuff. Like we saw it at this race, right, where Norris was on an alternate strategy, extending the first stint, the first stint, uh, the softs on, right, and then switching over to the mediums, and then switching, back to the softs over. Again, it was I don't want to say alternate, but it was definitely an offset in terms of when they were coming in for the pit stops compared to Max Verstappen, right? And we heard in the radio messages as well. The team were like, uh, you know, I forget what lap it was. It was like, do we want to come in to do you want to pit to cover off George Russell, or they pretty much asked him, do you want to come in to pit to cover off George Russell? Lando said no. I think we need to go for Max. So it was pretty much asking, do you want to go for P1, the win, or fight for the final spot on the podium, P3. Lando chose P1. I think that was the right thing to do. But then a couple laps later, you heard another radio message from pretty much questioning. It's like, guys, are we sure this is the move? We want to fight for this. We want to fight with Max. I don't know what the cause of that radio message was. If there was data, maybe tire dag, or something along those lines that caused that confusion or caused that, I guess, second guess from Lando. Or if maybe it's just the feeling in the car different between now and from the first radio message and that radio message. Where it's like, not so sure we should be. I'm not sure we can go for this win, guys. That's the message that's getting across. And then I think it was in Canada. Yes, it was in Canada where they kept them out one lap too long, right? In that safety car. So when he came out of the pits, he he came out of the pits. I believe it was like lap 28 or something like that in Montreal. I forget. Uh, he was running in the lead, but they kept him out one lap too long.
Right.
Maybe it was accidental, or it was just bad timing on the safety
I
car.
believe that they weren't ready for him yet. Yeah.
Exactly, right. So they're not strategic blunders for sure. I don't think they're major strategic blunders, or pit stop errors. I mean, it looks like the pit stops are on point. Um, but it's those when you get to the top, right, in Formula One, or on the top, but Formula One as a whole is all about the nitty gritty, those small details, those you know thousandths of a second. It comes to the timing of everything, like from the pit stops to your quality times. Everything comes down to timing, right? And when and the stuff that you do, how you time it, and it seems like McLaren are just misjudging their calls or mistiming their strategy call. I think like the strategy calls are pretty good for the most part, but they're just calling it just a little too late. I think I guess the way it's best described is they're being very retroactive, not proactive. So that's why their strategy calls are coming a little bit delayed, a little bit later than the rest. That's why that's why some of the strategies like they had last week in Barcelona um, went long. They try to go long rather than playing the game, trying to go for an undercut or whatever. They're being retroactive rather than being proactive, and I think that's something that needs to change if they are to be a force, if they want to become a force to be reckoned with, not just this season, but for you know next season and the seasons after that. So
Nice.
it's yeah. I mean, I mean, we're both in agreement. We both say yes. Just one of
Yes.
us has a big fat caveat, big
It,
fat asterisk.
I wouldn't say a big fat caveat. I think it is the caveat. Well, you know what kind of caveat this is?
Mm.
This is 18, but they're still in high school. That's the kind of caveat.
Mm.
So
Okay.
it's pretty big. It's very important. Actually, it's actually by giving that
Right.
example, it's a huge caveat. There's a huge caveat.
Yeah.
They're
So,
18, but I mean they're still in high school.
oh, for sure, for sure. Um, yeah, I think we'll end it there. I think that's it. I think we've gotten all we need to say. We've gotten the yaps out for the week. Um, so leave it at that. Thank you guys all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this podcast or if you hated it, either way, please leave a comment down below on wherever you found us and listen to us: Podbean, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. Leave us feedback. You can also shoot us an email, formulayap@gmail.com, and we'll take all the feedback. And we're just two dudes, bro. We're just two fucking dudes yapping. Like, if you don't like the yap, you can tell us, but let's be real, we will not give three shits. We're just yapping. So, go. If you don't want to hear us yap, go listen to like some other podcast that takes like 10 minutes, or watch like a YouTube video from like the race or something. I love those
Yeah,
guys,
go,
by the way.
go.
That's shameless plug. Okay, that's it, everyone. We'll be back next week with another recap and preview, or and maybe some more episodes. Probably gonna change up this podcast. I love the yapping. I know you love the yapping too, but Jesus Christ, I don't know how much longer I can stand listening
We
to my own
got
voice yapping for an hour.
exciting updates coming soon, guys.
Oh
Exciting
yeah,
updates coming soon.
oh yeah, oh yeah. I like that. All right, gang. Until next week. Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so cooked. Until next week, guys. Take care.
Peace.
Bye.